What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark, MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and it's still March Madness. I'm going back through Netflix and I'm reviewing 31 good, great, or excellent films on Netflix, films I'd recommend, films I've seen before, and didn't review the first time because I didn't have my channel or whatever. I mean, well, whatever the reason is, I don't know, multitudes of reasons. Um, if I have to review something I've already reviewed at the end because I've run out of good movies, and fine. But right now, I've been able to find excellent movies after excellent movie after excellent movie. So this one's more of like, that's what I'm saying, good, great, excellent, like just good, like films I would recommend. This is not an excellent movie. This is a good movie. This is Bad Trip. This is on Netflix with audio description, and it's uh, it's a hybrid film, but it's basically, this is Eric Andre. If you like Eric Andre, you'll like this. If you like me, click like and subscribe, and we'll talk about Bad Trip. It's a hybrid because it's a hidden camera show mixed with a little bit of a script. So Eric Andre, along with Lowell Howery and Tiffany Haddish, and I mean, there's a huge musical sequence, so I'm assuming he hired a whole bunch of like extras and day players or whatever to help flesh out his musical sequence. But yeah, I mean, he has a lot of setups where they're doing things and in front of, I don't know, people who have no idea who these people are, which is kind of amazing to me. I was thinking this film came out in 2021, and if it was me, now granted, I know a lot about pop culture, so they would be lost. I would have to be removed from set because, um, like this one scene where Tiffany Haddish comes in and she's trying to play like she's like a bad girl and coming in and yelling at Lowell Howery. I would have just been there and been like, wait a minute, that's Lowell Howery behind, and that's Tiffany Haddish. Because there's only just so much makeup you can put on them. I mean, they're still going to look semi-resemblance to themselves. I don't think they're in like, I don't think they had like the makeup artists of Gary Oldman in The Darkest Hour, to where they're just totally gone. And you're like, I have no idea. And, but the thing about both of them is they both have really distinguishable voices that every time I've ever heard them in anything as voice actors, I know it's them. I don't have to look it up. I hear Tiffany Haddish in anything, and I know it's her. If she walks into the room, I'm going to be like, that's Tiffany Haddish. I'm not going to be like, oh, there's some weird lady in here who sounds like Tiffany Haddish. And they're like, why is Tiffany Haddish just holding the head behind the counter? So there's a reason why a lot of these prank shows use people who aren't famous, or who are famous only to the show and are not like actors who didn't star in Girls Trip, like, yeah, there are reasons for that. So, um, but once you get past that, some of the jokes are funny. Some of the gags are funny. It's crude and R-rated and absolutely like, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's there. I mean, he does a lot of what the same ground that Johnny Knoxville covered in Bad Grandpa, which was I mean, okay, cool. Um, so that's the gig, is that there's a little bit of a plot, but it's not a real plot because obviously they're acting, but the other people around them are not. So they're walking up to people and yelling at them about like trying to find these people and like, him, where's my car at? Where's my car at? Like that kind of thing. And the guy's like, I don't know. And it's like, this is you in this picture. You know him. and this guy somehow is in this picture with Lil Rel and Eric Andre. And he's like, I don't know what, he's trying to get himself out of the situation. Like it's just some random guy that is approaching it like he's in a real situation. I'm always sort of amazed that these films never actually resort to any sort of actual violence against any of the actors accidentally. Like they have to screen who they're pranking. Um, yeah, because there's some stuff. There's a scene where Eric runs through a house, and I was like, man, how did they get that? Like, how did they get him to burst through somebody's house in a hidden camera show? You know? And then that person not. I mean, like, what happens if Eric Andre runs in a house and the person's like, I got a gun? Wrong house. Like, what level of what do they go through in order to make sure that that's okay for them to do without tipping their hat? You know what I'm saying? Without saying that's the problem that I have with some of these setups is that even though it's set up like it's a hidden camera movie, because your actors are actually mic'd and the people on the street are not. So like you can hear when somebody is not part of the movie because they have no microphone. They're just being picked up by like an ambient mic that's capturing the room, not a body mic like the other actors obviously have. So, uh, yeah, their voices are different, and it's it- but there are situations where you're like, how did they get the people in here? They have like a wedding sequence, and I'm like, how did you get a whole bunch of random people to watch a wedding with people that they don't know? Like without it seeming like a setup, because then crazy stuff starts happening, and immediately you know that you've been pranked because there was some dude standing outside being like, "Who wants to come to a wedding? We need more people. No one showed up." And then like you go in and this stuff starts happening, and you're like, "Well, obviously." You know? Like, I mean, that's my thought is if I was there, I'd be like, I mean, the guy was outside recruiting us. Where's the camera? Which reality show am I on? Um, so sometimes it's like the setup feels so that how did they how did they get people to react in a way that was like, oh yeah, this is obviously happening with actors that are fairly recognizable. So especially for Eric Andre fans, his vocally Eric doesn't stand out to me as much as Tiffany and Lil Rel do. But yeah, um, on the second time through, it's been a couple years, so it was funny, and I had forgotten some of the gags, so that helped. So 4 years of not watching the movie definitely helped. I watched it when it first dropped on Netflix in 2021. So if you wait a long time, then the humor regains itself because you watch enough movies in between that I didn't remember all of the gags. I loosely remembered the movie and what it was about, but I didn't remember all the gags. Some of them came back to me when the scene was happening. I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember this." Like I remember the sandwich shop sequence towards the beginning of the movie, and thinking to myself, "Why does she just leave?" There's like this healthcare worker there that's just like she keeps waiting throughout this whole thing. I'm like, "Why didn't you leave?" Like you're not happy with the way he's prepping the food. Just leave. I would. Like anyway, so it's those questions that I have about like are these real people because they're not reacting like real people. Some of them are, but not all of them. Some of them are trying, maybe they're like actors trying to pretend like they're real people or they're in on it, or I don't know. But Bad Trip for the most part is an interesting experiment. It's kind of funny, it's silly, it's goofy. Um, it's crass, crude, rude, dude. Starting from about words. The audio description is good because it describes all of the visual sight gags throughout the whole thing, which there are plenty. There's nudity. Um, there's a scene that doesn't make any damn sense where the two guys end up getting their penis stuck in a Chinese finger trap. So, and then they have to like go around to people and be like, "Can you help us?" And I'm like, again, if somebody came up to me like that, I would be like, "What the fuck?" I mean, like, I love that there are some people who are like trying to help them as if like this was a real situation that they got themselves into accidentally on a golf course. But it's funny. I mean, like they get some people pretty good sometimes. Tiffany Haddish really commits to her character, which makes it funny because her character is the outlandish one, and she even makes some people laugh because of her crazy stuff. So, uh, it's a fun movie. It's a fun experiment, and like I said, the more if you understand Eric Andre's style of humor, you'll enjoy this. If you don't like Eric Andre, you will hate this movie. If you ever caught an episode of the Eric Andre show that runs on Adult Swim and you're like, I don't know what this is, but he's the least funny person I've ever seen, don't watch this. It's not for you. This is for people who understand Eric Andre's brand, um, and how he's trying to stretch it a little bit more into the mainstream. I'm giving Bad Trip. I'm gonna give it a B minus. Um, so I think it's the lowest grade that I've given, but it's still like a would recommend. I give something a B minus or higher. I'm basically saying would watch it. So, not a lot of opportunities for comedies on Netflix to stand out, especially ones I haven't reviewed. So Bad Trip stood out to me because I was like, well, I'm not reviewing Ridiculous Six. That doesn't qualify, So going through my head of all of the Netflix comedies, I came up on Bad Trip and I was like, well, yeah, I would give this one. Uh, I think I would, yeah, and I would. So, worth your time, sort of. Check it out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I'll see you guys on the other side.